Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. I'm Rahelia Parwati with NPM 234111051, a management student in class 23C. In this article, I'll be discussing one of the key topics in the tourism management course, the economic impact of tourism. This topic is very interesting because tourism is not just about travel and recreation, but also plays a significant role in boosting the economy of a region or country. In this discussion, we will examine how the tourism sector positively impacts communities, but it also presents various economic challenges that require vigilance. Let's get to the discussion. Understanding impact. Tourism economics. Okay, let's start our discussion with the first slide, which discusses the economic impact of tourism. The economic impact of tourism is the total impact of tourism activities on the economic conditions of a region. This impact can be direct, indirect, or derivative. When tourists come to a region, they spend money on hotels, food, transportation, tourist tickets, and souvenirs. All of these expenses generate direct income for businesses in the tourism sector. But the impact doesn't stop there. There are also indirect impacts, namely the impact on other sectors that support tourism activities. For example, farmers who supply food for restaurants, artisans who make souvenirs, or suppliers of building materials for hotels. Furthermore, there are induced impacts that arise when people's income from the tourism sector is reused to purchase daily necessities, thus continuing the circulation of money and creating an economic domino effect. Thus, tourism is actually a complex and interconnected economic system. Every tourism transaction creates new economic opportunities and strengthens regional financial structures. This is why many countries, including Indonesia, have identified tourism as a leading sector with significant potential to increase national income, foreign exchange, and regional original income, PAD. However, the economic impact of tourism is not always positive. In some cases, it can create economic inequality, such as rising living costs, or even a community's dependence on a single sector. For example, when tourist numbers decline due to a disaster or global crisis, the regional economy can falter because all economic activity depends on tourists. Therefore, it's crucial for us to understand that tourism is a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it can be a driver of economic growth, but on the other, it can create vulnerabilities if not managed sustainably. Therefore, in the context of tourism management, understanding these economic impacts is the basis for designing fair, balanced, and long-term management strategies. Positive economic impact of tourism. Now, we move on to the second slide, which is about the positive economic impact of tourism. The tourism sector is often referred to as an industry without a smokestack, as it can drive the economy without relying on heavy industry. One of the most tangible impacts is increased national and regional income. Each tourist brings in foreign exchange or money spent during their trip, whether on accommodation, transportation, food, or entertainment. The more tourists, the greater the revenue generated by the region. Furthermore, tourism is also a source of new jobs. Numerous positions are created through tourism, from tour guides and hotel staff to drivers and photographers, to local entrepreneurs such as food vendors and vehicle rental providers. In fact, according to data from the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy, this sector employs millions of workers across Indonesia. This demonstrates the strategic role tourism plays in reducing unemployment and improving public welfare. Furthermore, tourism also increases local income. Residents near tourist destinations gain new business opportunities, such as opening food stalls, souvenir shops, or guest houses. This increases the circulation of money in the area, and residents become not just spectators but also economic actors. Another positive impact is infrastructure development. The government typically improves road access, builds airports, ports, and other public facilities to support tourism activities. Good infrastructure not only benefits tourists but also facilitates mobility and improves the quality of life for local residents. Then there's another important effect called the multiplier effect, or economic multiplier. This means that every rupiah spent by tourists can generate economic returns many times over. For example, when tourists eat at a restaurant, the restaurant buys ingredients from farmers, and farmers buy fertilizer from agricultural stores, and so on. This cycle creates prosperity for all levels of society. Equally important, tourism also helps diversify regional economies. Many regions that previously relied solely on agriculture or fisheries now have alternative sources of income from tourism. This diversification makes the economy more resilient to market changes and global crises. With all these benefits, we can conclude that the positive economic impact of tourism is very broad and sustainable, especially if it is managed with strategies that take into account the interests of local communities. Negative economic impacts of tourism. Next, on the third slide, we'll discuss the flip side of tourism, its negative economic impacts. Like two sides of a coin, rapid tourism growth can also create new economic problems. One of the most common impacts is rising prices of goods and the cost of living. When demand for goods and services increases due to the influx of tourists, prices around tourist destinations also rise. As a result, low-income local communities often struggle to meet their basic needs due to rising prices. Furthermore, tourism can also create economic dependency. Many tourist destinations in Indonesia, such as Bali, Lombok, and Labuan Bajo, derive a significant portion of their revenue from the tourism sector. When tourist numbers dropped during the COVID-19 pandemic, for example, the economy immediately slowed, many businesses closed, and unemployment rates rose. Another negative impact is the emergence of income inequality. Not everyone can enjoy the benefits of tourism. Typically, those with significant capital, such as hotel owners or travel companies, reap substantial profits, while the lower classes receive only a small share of the economic cycle. Then there's economic leakage. This means that a large portion of tourism revenue doesn't stay in the area but instead flows out of the region or even abroad. For example, when tourists stay at international hotels, most of the profits are sent to the headquarters overseas. As a result, the positive impact on the local economy is not maximized. Furthermore, tourism can also lead to the commercialization of culture and the environment. Many traditions and rituals that should be sacred are transformed into performances to attract tourists. As a result, authentic cultural values can fade, and communities can lose their identity. Tourism is also seasonal, meaning high revenues only occur during certain times, such as the holiday season. During the off-peak months, many businesses suffer losses or even close. This leads to income instability and long-term economic uncertainty. All of this shows that tourism does not always bring benefits if it is not balanced with mature economic planning and fair management policies for local communities. Economic impact analysis. Tourist. On the fourth slide, we move on to the analysis section. To fully understand the economic impact of tourism, we need to look at it from various perspectives, from social, cultural, to environmental. One of the clearest examples is Bali. This area is an international tourist destination and the backbone of the local economy. Hundreds of thousands of workers depend on the tourism sector for their livelihood, both directly and indirectly. However, when the pandemic hit, this sector was paralyzed. Thousands of hotels and restaurants closed, unemployment soared, and Bali's economy plummeted. This demonstrates that over-reliance on a single sector, even if highly profitable, can pose significant economic risks. Therefore, it is crucial to analyze how tourism can be managed to remain profitable without creating excessive dependency. Furthermore, the analysis must also include how tourism revenues are distributed. Are the benefits truly felt by local communities, or do they simply benefit large investors? In many cases, local communities are often seen as mere laborers, not business owners. For tourism to have a fair economic impact, communities must be key players, not mere spectators. This is where the importance of implementing the principles of sustainable tourism comes in. This concept emphasizes that tourism development must maintain a balance between economic, social, and environmental sustainability. This means that tourism should not be solely oriented toward short-term profits but must also ensure that its benefits can be enjoyed by future generations. Furthermore, local community involvement in destination planning and management is also key. When communities are given the space to actively participate, they feel a sense of ownership and responsibility for maintaining the sustainability of tourism in their area. Thus, tourism not only benefits the economy but also strengthens the social and cultural identity of local communities. Conclusion. And now we come to the final slide, which is the conclusion. From all the discussions, we can understand that tourism has two interrelated economic sides. On the one hand, it brings significant benefits such as increased income, job creation, infrastructure development, and regional economic growth. However, on the other hand, tourism also has the potential to cause negative impacts such as local inflation, social inequality, and excessive economic dependence. To address these challenges, a planned, inclusive, and sustainable approach to tourism management is required. The government, businesses, and communities must collaborate to build a tourism system that is equitable and oriented toward long-term prosperity. The success of the tourism sector cannot be measured solely by the number of tourists visiting, but also by the extent to which local communities feel the benefits and the extent to which tourism is able to maintain a balance between the economy and the environment. With wise management, tourism can be a major driver of regional economies and a tool to improve the quality of life for communities without sacrificing social, cultural, or environmental values. This is the essence of sustainable and equitable tourism development. Thus my discussion regarding the economic impact of tourism. Through this material, we can understand that tourism has great potential in economic development, but also requires wise policies so that its benefits can be felt by all parties. Thank you for listening to my explanation. I hope this material is useful and increases our insight. See you at the next meeting. Keep up the enthusiasm for learning, and wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.